So I'm going to ask you to notice me, right? To shift your attention and notice me because I love attention. Some people don't like attention. Some people don't like the stage. I'm like, give me the microphone. I'm ready. Which is why this morning, while Sharon and Jody are like leading the show, I'm outside because I can't keep my mouth shut, right? So what we're going to do right now, this is a very, very brief section that I'm doing actually on behalf of Susan Fisher and Holly Neal from the Department of Education, who could not attend today. There's a lot going on, as you can imagine. And so the reason why I wanted to share with you is a couple of things. First of all, the Department of Education very much values this community. And I wanted to tell you that what you are doing is important and they're recognizing what you're doing and celebrating it. So that's super cool. To the extent that Susan, and in a conversation with me in, I'm going to say early December, said, you know, those comprehensive system of professional development modules, you remember this from way back in the summer? I'll click over here because that's probably better. Right, you remember those? Right? They are quite old. Although I will say not much has changed, right? But we certainly know a lot more, and we've certainly become a lot more fluent. And there may be elements that we have, knowledge that you have in our practice, right? Things that we think, wow, this could be a much stronger module if it had this. Or if we changed this, or if we added this. So if any of you would like, as your capstone, to take on one or more of these modules, or a section of one of these modules, you are invited to do that. For us, what that means is you'll look at the module, you'll maybe do a needs assessment, share it with a few people, or talk to your colleagues who've all seen the modules, and say, like, what do you think? Get some input. What needs to be changed? What should we be keeping? And then propose a revised module. The proposed revision could either be a printout of what is with, you know, directions about how to change it, or it could be Google Slides saying this is what it should look like now. Do you all have any questions about that option? I didn't think you would, right? So it's a pretty discrete option. If you are interested in that, you can just send me an email to let me know. The department may or may not adopt your changes, right? I want to be really clear about that. The department may or may not adopt your changes. Everything that we do has to get vetted. There's vetting, right? And that's a good thing because things can be confusing in ways that we don't anticipate sometimes. But I can tell you that I will use whatever you've got for your colleagues who are joining us next year. I will use whatever you've got for the cohort who comes next year, following you into and joining our statewide community of ETLs. So it won't be something that you do that never gets used. I can guarantee you that. So are there any questions about that at the moment? And I know there might be some folks who are interested. I'll just wait to hear from people if you're into that. One other thing that I wanted to share with you is this term on Moodle. We're in the second half of the course. Now Moodle, right? Should be a four-letter word, right? It's like Moodle, oh, right? So one easy trick that it took me way too long to discover since I've been using Moodle for like, I don't know, 10 years, is that the easiest way to get to our current session is to go over here. So it's bolded, it's actually bolded. I'm gonna see if this works. I don't think it will. It's the number that we're on, the number of the session that we're on. The number of the session that we're on is bold. So raise your hand if you knew that. Right, it took me like 5 years to figure that out. So when you click on that, I'll show you. When I click on the 9 for today's session, ta-da, right? Today's session is also highlighted, so you'll see it's kind of yellowish, right? So you can tell if you're on the right session as you scroll down, because the next one's not highlighted. So I go through and highlight them to make sure that people know. But that little thing, right, at the top of the page, so the only way to see those numbers that we started with are way at the top of the page, right? But it makes it so much easier to get to where we are right now. So always when you log in, I don't like Macs, can I tell you that? I really don't. I know we have strong biases. But always when you log in, I don't know how to even scroll up on this. Yeah, if you will, scroll to the top. Always when you log in, go to the top and look to that left-hand side of the screen. And then you'll see the numbers. Okay? Save time, big time saver in terms of the scrolling down. Because if you're like me, you scroll down and then you put your cursor in the wrong place and it goes back up, right?
And then you frustrate.
Yes. And yeah, no.
Oh, sorry.
Go all the way up to the top, all the way to the top. Up, good, right there.
Okay.
Okay? So that's a kind of a down and dirty easy. And next year, all of this course will be on Canvas, a different platform. Has anyone used it?
It'll be on what?
Canvas. Canvas. It is awesome compared to what we can do with Moodle and the layout. It looks more like a web page with squares. It's just easier to navigate for us non-techies.
This was my first time with this, and it was so hard for me in the beginning.
Yeah.
Jody can attest.
Yeah, I lived with it too.
Yeah. It's hard for all of us. Yeah. So stay with us in Moodle. Please don't fall behind on the posts, right? Both because there's some really cool conversations going on there, and because then you end up having to do 5 at a time, which is no party. Believe me, having fallen behind myself in courses. So stay up with the posts during the spring. You'll be reading Tom Hare's book. It's a great book. It's a little more heady, right, than Getting to Yes. But it's time for us now. We've dug in deep, okay? And I think, other than the third thing that I am supposed to say to you today is the Merson pilot. Has everyone had a chance to think or know or look about it? Does everybody know what it is? Raise your hand if you don't know what it is. The Merson pilot. Okay, so the Merson pilot, I brought handouts. They're over by the sign-in sheets. And those handouts are really about an opportunity. It does take 2 hours. I did it. I participated this year. It's a classroom simulation where you are asked as a teacher to simulate a lesson. And they give you the lesson, and then you have they give you the topic, and you have 20 minutes to design the lesson. And then you enter this simulated classroom. For me, it was middle schoolers. Right? And you do this thing. And they're piloting this software as an option for licensure, is my understanding. Like to think about, well, how do we get a practicum that we can see to show what people can do in the classroom as opposed to perhaps more MTELs, right? Wouldn't that be great? So it was really fun. I will tell you, you do 2 lessons. It takes 2 hours. They're 1 hour each. So they give you the topic. They say, come back in 20 minutes. And then you enter the simulated classroom. The first one, I was like, yeah, knock that out of the park. The second one, I was like, oh, that was so bad. And the worst part was, the second one was on teaching social skills. I'm like, oh my God, really? So, but it's a pilot only. It's not like they keep that data. It's not like anybody's holding you accountable. But I thought, well, they'll see the good, the bad, and the ugly in this little range. And it was fun. It was really fun. So if you have a couple of hours and you haven't done any kind of simulation technology, it's a super cool opportunity. So I want to encourage you to do that.
They give you a $10 Starbucks card.
They do. I didn't get one because I did it too early. I should have waited.
They give you some credits towards your relicensure.
Yeah, well, I know. Wouldn't that be nice? But you'll all get lots of PDPs from this, so you don't have to worry, right? All right. Question, yeah.
It's not a question, it was kind of a statement. When you guys do your next SETLI group,
Yep.
I would strongly encourage them to create an email where they can receive everything that they're going to get.
Oh, like a folder? Yeah, that's a good idea.
Later cluttered through my work.
I'm
I
sorry.
And there's stuff that I still even want to go back and
Right.
revisit, but it's so far embedded, it's so
Yes.
far gone. I'm
Yeah.
like, someday.
So that's actually really good advice, and that's a really nice, at the end of this semester, at the end of this term, there will be 2 things we'll ask you to do. We'll go back and we'll do that kind of evaluation thing we did on the very first day, our very first activity, right? With the questions about what resources you're familiar with and you use and know, and your leadership values, right? What you think is the most important. We'll do that activity as a closing kind of thing in May. And then we're also going to ask you to complete a survey. It's not long. It's a very short survey that gives us feedback where those kind of ideas come in one place. And then we take that, because we get that information from you in late May. And then we have the next cohort coming in the end of July, beginning of August to the Warren Conference Center. So we have a lot of time that we can make adjustments and changes in what we do. So I send myself emails when people suggest things, because I do have an emailing system to keep things organized for that purpose. So I will email myself your suggestion, but I would encourage you to keep thinking that way. Think about your friends who have yet to become your friends, right?
Also, one more thing, there's a Facebook group. I don't know if it's started by anybody in this group?
Yeah, it was.
I think it was.
There's a Facebook
Did
group.
you start it? Oh, all right.
And I'm terrible because I'm not on Facebook. My husband does our Facebook thing. Our
It's
Facebook.
kind of an effort to help reduce on the number of emails that we get, to
Yep.
get people to do the exchanges right there, because I know, like all of you, like my emails, I get like 30 emails. And
Right.
half of them are from people responding to each other. So
Right.
I started it a while ago with a few people that I knew were team chairs before I knew anything about this, so
I love it.
Yeah.
it's just nice to have a conversation on it.
So what's the name of the Facebook page?
I don't know. I have to look.
Okay, somebody look it up, right? Because you all are ready. You're all ready, right? I apologize because I am not a Facebooker, right? And so that is like an interface that I'm going to be the weak link in the chain on.
Yeah, it's called Special Education Team Chair / Team Leader
Special education, team chair,
/ Team Leader.
/ meaning / like this, team leader,
And there are
/
three questions you have to answer just to make sure that we're not like people, there are basic questions, and one of them just says, how did you hear about it? And if you put SETLI, and then I just approve, because I didn't want like random people or parents or things like joining, so they're just like
Okay.
basic questions.
So there'll be 3 basic questions when you try to sign up for this page. It's okay. They're not coming to get you or take your personal information. Answer the 3 questions, and then you'll get an approval to join that Facebook group. And I'm sure that will be a much more fluent way for you guys to continue your communication. I can also send something out to the people from last year, because they're also very active in our group. We get like sometimes you'll see these emails and you're like, I don't know that person, I haven't heard of that person, but there's actually, believe it or not, 105 of us across the state. 105, and next year there'll be 135. So it's a great resource, but you're right, I know the emails are a little overwhelming.
Is Paula in here?
Paula, yep.
Oh, right there. You didn't answer the questions.
So remember to answer the questions. This is good, right? So when you go to sign on, remember to answer the questions.
The
Yes.
other dates that are listed at the start of today's page.
Yeah.
February, no, the May 15th, the March 18th, the May 18th, and the June 15th.
Yeah.
Are they here all from
So-
9 to 4?
Check it out. This is a face-to-face session.
Right.
Okay? Now, let's see if I can actually do this successfully. The next session is February 23rd. It's online. It says online session. That's where you're doing the Moodle posting. So the next time we will see each other will be May 18th.
Right, so what I'm asking, is it here, 28 Ward Road, 9 to 4? I'm just trying to get them on
It's
my
not
calendar.
9 to 4. Okay? The next session is 2 half days. So cohort 1 is in the morning and cohort 2 is in the afternoon. Okay? So we're not 60, we're 30 and 30 next time.
So the time for cohort 2 is 12.
So if you scroll down to that date on the calendar, right? It'll be right in there. It'll say cohort 1 and cohort 2. And you have it on the schedule that you got at the beginning of this whole process too. There's a 1-page schedule with all of that information. It's at the top of the SETLI page. It's actually at the top of the page underneath our 4-day intensive. There's actually a 1-page schedule with all of our dates. So we'll see each other again in May, all right? And then in June, we're back here again, and that's our final celebration. What that looks like is we have a keynote from Dr. Russell Johnston, who is also very supportive of this project and you as a community. There's a little thanking everybody and all that stuff. Susan and Holly will be here. They may have stuff to say. Then each of you will stand up either individually, or if you're working on capstones as a small group, you'll stand up as a group and you'll say, here was our problem. Here was our hypothesis. Here's what we did. Here's how we'll sustain it. And then you'll sit down, right? And so last year I took notes so that we could capture it on chart paper and hang it up on the wall and see all the things that this community has accomplished by doing the capstones, right? And then you also get to know, like, oh, that person did that. I want to talk to them because I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. So that's what happens at our final celebration. We eat. It's only a half day and it's here. Any other questions about what lies ahead?
One more thing.
Yep.
I'm kind of getting used to the emails, and again, I'm liking them. So I kind of don't want them to stop.
No worries. That's kind of what I was saying with the Facebook thing. Like, I love I am 100%, and I think it's a brilliant idea. I love this Facebook thing, but you will never see me on it. And so you're going to get the emails. I'm sorry. You can delete them. It's okay. I won't know. But yeah, the emails will happen. And because that's my kind of Luddite way of communicating with everyone. But maybe if more people go onto Facebook, you'll have more efficient communications there. So don't worry, they won't stop. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jody, and Jody will facilitate our final kind of formal section of the day, and then you'll have working time. So the afternoon is we will be here. If you need us to be here, you can get started on your capstones, talking to each other, thinking about what you want to do, organizing yourselves. Okay? Yes?
Are we going to, before everyone leaves, give a quick idea of what the capstones are to know if there are people to join with? I think it's hard. I mean, you're talking about it, but I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, that's a really good idea. So after Jody goes, if you have an idea, not everybody may have an idea, right, about what your capstone's going to be. But if you do, maybe what we'll do is we'll go around and people can say it so that you can figure out how to kind of come together and organize yourself. Yeah?
Or maybe we could start a Google Doc so people that don't know what they're going to do.
That'd be great.
We go back and talk to our special ed director.
That's a really good idea. And if you do that, I can certainly share it with the group if you give me editing rights, right? So if somebody here creates a Google Doc, please only one person do that. Who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? Oh, you're not good at Google Docs. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. All right, so Catherine's going to do it, right? Darlene? Shoot, I knew it. As soon as I said it, I'm like, I got the wrong name. So Darlene's going to do it, and we'll have a Google Doc. Do you know what that is?
I do know it.
Okay.
It's kind of funnel it. It's just an additional thing. Is there a way that we can utilize the Moodle that's already existing?
Well, the problem with Moodle, right, well, we could do it as a discussion post. Would you rather do that? Okay, I'll create that while Jody talks in each section, but then you'll only be able to see people that are in your cohort. So would you rather do a Google Doc, or would you rather do Moodle? Google.
Just do a quick 5-minute discussion about it
Yeah.
not have all these documents.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. Are you ready? Here's what we're going to do. The Google Doc will get created by Darlene. She's going to create the Google Doc. So that's a possibility where ideas can get captured and put up and added, right? I can also try to take notes as people talk, right? But before we leave, you will talk. You'll be able to stand up and share your ideas so those who are here in the room can hear it. So I like both. Remember, different people use different modalities. And then after the Google Doc is kind of up there, kind of for maybe a week, right? I hear what you're saying. I can download it and move it into each cohort's session for today so that people who prefer Moodle can do that. Because remember, we all have different ways of organizing our electronic lives, right? So the more modalities, the better. And you, as an individual, don't have to look at all of them. You only have to look at the one that works for you, okay? I love this, and thank you everyone for like saying, okay, Google Doc, Moodle, and talking, okay? Anything else? All right, I'm handing it over to Jody.
So I have these two acronyms up here, ACE, right? You guys know what this is, right? ACE. Do we know what ACE is, the ACE score? Who wants to say what it is? Yep. What does it stand for?
Adverse childhood experience?
Adversive childhood experiences, right? So this is you can look this up, you can take it yourself.
There's a nice TED Talk on that.
There's an excellent TED Talk on it, and there's an excellent book on it, and it's called, what's our book called? How Children Succeed. Awesome book. Highly recommend that you read it. Is that what it's called? How Children Succeed. I think that's what it's called. Yes, by Tough. So this is ACE, right? You take a test. They give it to kids. It's actually more in the medical realm of things to see how stress, trauma, actually physiologically and chemically changes your health, and it's not in a good way, right? So look into this. I made an assumption that we all knew what that was, so I'm sorry that I shouldn't have made that assumption. But look at that, get to know what that is, start thinking about that. This is a new ACE, kind of like our PTSD conversation online. This is adversive special ed experiences, okay? And I'm talking about us having that. So this session right now is just about us. It's about the work that we do every day. I think we get that we have to do really good work with our kids. We have to do really good work with our staff. You know, I bring this up all the time. You're probably like, shut up, Jody. MTSS, right? That's my big thing. MTSS, Massachusetts Tiered Systems of Support. That's what it's called now. And it's all about you cannot improve systems. You can't help your colleagues. You cannot help your students. You can't help your families unless you do what? You better take care of yourself, right? It's really, really, really important that we do that. I mean, you know, like Joyce was here. We've been talking about a lot of things. We're talking about ableism. It's heavy stuff, right? And then we got paperwork and compliance, and it's overwhelming. Like when I saw you guys today, and I'm in that world. I'm working in that world, and I'm not here, right? It's like, wow, man. And when do we ever take a moment, just a moment? Because we're not really given too many moments. How many people take lunch here? Not too many. Me neither. I never get a lunch. Don't get a prep. Don't get any break. Right? It's just this constant motion of things that is really not the best way to have your brain and your health in place. And I know we talked about this at the conference too over the summer, but it's essential to the work that we do. So I'm bringing this full circle because we looked at the IEP projects, the IEPs that you folks wrote. Overall, everyone did good work. Laurel and I didn't have a discussion about both groups, but with cohort 1, you guys did some solid work. You're smart people. You care about kids. You care about families. Something that just kind of surfaced for me, and I'm in the field too, and it happens to me, and it has happened to me multiple times, is this race. I was looking at the documents, and I could see the race, right? I could see you guys all trying to get the forms together, put the information on, and I was like, oh my gosh, and it was hard, right? Because you guys are online trying to put things in documents. It's not really a IEP document or whatever. And I saw that, and I know it was just an assignment, right? But like I always kind of try to say, this work is just not an assignment, right? It's definitely practice. So I just wanted to acknowledge that we're all racing. We gotta slow it down a little bit, okay? And some of the things that also surfaced out of that was in this paperwork compliance race, we lost the kid's story. I was hearing about, so-and-so evaluation, he can't, this disability, but I'm like, I'm a parent of a child with disability, and I was just like, wow, who's this kid, man? Who is this kid? I want to know. I'm left with questions like, but who's the kid? And we were talking about ableism and all this stuff, and we can get stuck in these things. I have many times myself, because you gotta get stuff done. The most important thing that we gotta get done is we gotta tell the right story. Because anyone pick up that document you wrote, That's the only story they know about that kid. Like, I just started the school, right? I picked up these IEPs I got, and I started reading about these kids, and I'm like, oh my, wow, I'm like scared. Like I don't know if I want these kids to come here. I'm like really like scared about this. I meet the kids, and I'm like, they're just a kid. Like, you know, they stayed, they come every day, they're connecting with me. In a month's time, they've like made major turnarounds. They're just kids, and I focused on their strengths, right? I pulled out all the pieces, I got to know them. I actually didn't read a lot of the IEP. I looked at them first and got to know them and their families and built these relationships. And I was just like, wow, these are really smart kids. They're good kids. They've been institutionalized. We can turn it around. We can turn it around. It takes a lot of love. And my staff, a lot of love to my staff, right? So it's just this whole system that you gotta keep working. It's really hard, you know, cleaning the toilet, vacuuming lice, you know, putting the heat on and off, all these things. Most important part, my staff and my kids, my staff and my kids and my families, right? I call those families every week. How you doing? It's Joe. Why are you calling? I'm like, your kid's doing great. I love having them here. I want you to know that. I love when you bring them in. It's so good to see you guys. Really? I'm like, yes, that's why I'm calling. Have a great weekend. So this is all just like to talk about, don't forget this stuff, because we have so much that we're doing and we can forget, right? Yes, oh, sorry.
So I heard somebody say the other day, I'm just going to say this ever so quickly, if you have a report on a kiddo and you read it and you can't think of one gift you would buy him for his birthday, it's not good, the paper it's on.
Ooh, I like that. It means you don't know them.
It means they don't know him. It means it's not interest-based. It means it's not strength-based. If you read the report and there is not one idea that you can come up with that that kid would like for a birthday gift, no good. Just a thought. I heard someone say it, thought it was brilliant, passing it on. There you go.
So Laurel and I, oh yeah, sorry.
Can this information please go to our big hospitals?
Yes.
Because I was pretty much slandered by writing a strength-based evaluation report by Children's Hospital that told the parents that my summary was fluffy, positive, and had no recommendations for what was true. But I was trying so hard to start with something positive, and it was, wow.
They haven't caught on.
Don't stop doing it.
So I just got to keep talking about it.
You're changing major systems. Remember, decades, eons of this stuff, right? Shoveling it through. We are the shovelers, right? And we got to just keep doing what we know is right. Keep doing it.
It is about interrupting it circumstance by circumstance, right? Pushing back circumstance by circumstance. Because sometimes that's how it gets done. That's how we make change. Maybe you will say something to that psychometrician at Boston Children's Hospital that will change how they think about kids. Maybe you can say, gee, I read your report and I can't think of one birthday gift that kid would like.
It's a
How
great
is that
litmus test.
interest-based? How is that strength-based? Like, so tag your it. Now you know what to say. Pass it on, right? One person at a time. It's how we create mobility. I'm going to stop.
No, I love it. Chime in anytime. We're a little tag team here. So I want to like take a moment. I want us all to take a moment. You know, I have these things that we do together, but I want you to take a moment. You can close your eyes. You can sit. I do want you to breathe, okay? And I want you to thank yourself for doing this hard work. Thank yourself. Take a moment. You can say it out loud. You can say it to yourself. Thank yourself for doing this hard work. It's incredibly hard work. We do not get thanked very often. You guys know that. Definitely not enough. Now I want you to look at someone at your table and tell them, thank you for doing this work for our kids and our families. Did everybody get thanked? Thank you. You guys got thanked? I just sparked you, sorry. Everyone got thanked? Were you thanked?
Yes.
Were you thanked? Good. You guys were thanked?
Were you thanked? Thank you.
Oh, man, Thank you. I need that so bad. I'm not thanked right now, and I'm like, please. Thank you. Thank you. So I have just a little clip. It's about strength-based kind of perspectives on young people. I thought it was relevant to the work that we're doing here. You can use it, use any of these clips that we give you. Obviously, share them. They're not, locked down just for us to know. It's not a secret. Get the stuff out and share it with people so they can change the way that they're thinking. And I'm just gonna, you guys can watch this, and then I believe we're just gonna do a wrap up after that. But after we watch it, if anybody want to share out, that's fine too. If you feel like you have to. Any thoughts on what people are thinking about with that? Yeah.
When we, when students get into trouble, we have to change our mindset about, out-of-school suspensions, in-house. What's worked in the past is not working now. And is a student really getting anything from being out of school?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And aren't we just creating them to fall behind and fail and then drop out?
When you keep getting the message you don't belong, right?
I'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you. I'm having a little stress around that. But when kids keep getting the message you don't belong here, but the message is really we don't know how to help you. They're getting the message you don't belong here. They're like, fine, I'll find something else to do, So it is very systematic. Anything else?
In our district, we have in-house behavior programs at all 3 buildings. And at the high school level, I get very frustrated when the kids that are placed into the Quest program, as it's called, get suspended for behaviors that are just a part of who they are in their culture. Like, they'll get suspended for 2 or 3 days because they swore at the Quest teacher. It's like, well, that's just, I'm not saying it's right, but that's who they are.
Right.
That's the culture they grew up in their home and so on and so forth. So instead of punishing them, shouldn't we be teaching them other ways in which to react to things? And the way I would look at it if I was the Quest teacher, shouldn't I have a little bit of a backbone? I am in the behavior program, So, there's certain things that I think, I'm not saying give them a green light, but
Give the teacher the support, the training, help them.
Well, not just, and the dean is like, just so you know, I suspend that kid for 3 days. I'm like, okay, 7 more days, and then we'll be on manifestation. You know what I mean? But it's like, for what? Oh, he swore at the teacher. It's like, well, it's not, I don't want to say it's right, but you know what I'm saying? You're in the Quest program. Like, there's a reason why you're doing that. You have social emotional disability, which is why we placed you there. You cannot function in the inclusion setting.
Yep.
So
But not everyone's
the
getting the
most
message.
frustrating thing I find at the high school level, and then even when I see some regular ed kids getting suspended, I'm just like cell phone violations. Really? You sent them home for a day because they had their cell phone out for the 3rd time? Like, it's...
Doesn't work.
No,
Does
because I
not
just
work.
feel like you're just encouraging the kid to keep acting out.
And we are then
And what kid would want a free day
habitually,
off?
as staff, we're habitually practicing bad practices, right? We're getting away with
what
it.
they want, which is a day off.
Totally.
And when that child comes back, they're not saying, what did I miss? So.
Anything, yeah.
I think we have the same, I'm at a high school as well, and we have the same issue over the past few years, and so we have been looking at the disproportionality of suspensions. We have a very data-driven principle, and when 0.9% of your regular ed students are suspended and 3.6% of your special education students are suspended, you look at that, and now with the new laws of a couple of years ago, even if regular ed kids get to 10 days, that's exclusion, and you have to provide education, right? And so you have these conversations about suspension, and it's exhausting, and it's so frustrating, and that's why you have friends who get it, who you lose your mind, and you're like, I'm effing, blah, when you get home. But I have to say, and restorative justice is a complete foreign concept in the building I work in, which is so bizarre. But now our CPR, 3 years later, one of those findings is the disproportionality of the suspension. And as long as you continue to bring that to light, and sometimes you have to allow that uncomfortable, to me, like you have to allow those uncomfortable situations to unfold. Because now we have a whole suspension protocol where a principal or a vice principal cannot suspend without a consultation from a special education administrator.
That's a cool practice.
It can't happen, it has to be in, and then it has to be, the whole suspension policy, thing has to be in writing, and this suspension form we created as a special ed administration team, it has to be signed and then logged in by the special education.
Will you share that out with the group? I would love to see that.
They hate it.
Of course.
And so like there's issues where, so for example, if we're at, like I'm not there today and say my boss is at a site doing whatever, they have to, they can't suspend. Like they have to call me, find me. If I'm not available, they have to call the elementary person, find, and do it all. And so
it's systematically organized.
Yes. So it's, we have a whole protocol on it. But I think it's going to start to slow it down because they're going to have to be like, oh, I'm going to have to, I can't change their mind. They can still do whatever they want, but they have to know that, they have to share with me what this suspension is about.
Yeah, can you share that out? Because then it would
I
lessen
can.
me going into his office and playing Let's Make a Deal. You know, like lessen that 3 to 1, you know.
Or do a 3 and 2. Do a 3 outside and a 2 internal. Like even just, but even do it
to an exclusion, so it
in or out.
But it's something. It's like for us, we're thinking of that as a first step. So the 2 would be in, so they could start making up their work and getting back on track.
Yeah, part of
That's
phasing out.
phase,
Yeah.
You know, so it's not because we have military, ex-military people in high power. So they like.
Makes it tough, man. Makes it tough.
But the data, I think, when it comes to your, like, looking at that data that on some of the sites that you guys shared, and pulling whatever it is that you choose to do is pretty, like, ours is pretty alarming. But I feel like with the leadership of my boss, who's way different personality than me and much calmer and nicer, and she's just like, you've got to let the situation be uncomfortable so it rises to a level of concern in order to allow effective change to where I just want
It's the
fix.
process of
Don't
change.
be a jerk. Why are you doing whatever, right? Like, that's where I'm at. And
Change is very uncomfortable, and it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Because you're, come on, everyone's gonna move
so
now.
I will definitely
Please.
share that.
So one thing that also just stood out to me, because you're like, well, why are we talking about teachers? You know, we're not teachers. Well, some of us are, I know. But one of the regrets I have when I worked in Springfield, caseload of about 250, right? So 3 different schools, you're running around, paperwork, lots of stuff going on, right? Very rarely could I get into those schools and classrooms and meet the children. You know, I did it before the meetings just so I didn't look like a total idiot. I'd be like, well, who's the kid? I want to do a little observation, so it's not like, is that the kid or is that the father? Really? So that is one thing I would really share, and I know it's extremely hard. You know, there's not a lot of time. I don't know if you can manage your schedule in a way that gives you time to do that, but getting out there and seeing those kids in classrooms, maybe even getting to know them so they know who you are. I mean, sometimes you show up at a meeting and they're like, who's this person? You know, they just run meetings. You know, it's like, no, not really. So I just would recommend that. I think it's really important. Like, get out there, see what's going on in their classroom, see what they're doing, and then does it match up with what you're seeing on the paper? You know, we got to do that work to make that match so the story's told the right way. Yep.
I'm not a district person, I'm the district coordinator for our town. It's part of our requirements of the job, not by the district, but by the state.
Very smart, yeah.
That you have an observation of the student at least once a year.
Very smart. Because sometimes that's the worst cases that I've seen, right? I'll go in and we're going to pull a kid out of somewhere, out of a private day, and I'm with a special ed director, and you know, I'm in the classroom, so I'm like, which students are yours? And literally they go, I don't know, I haven't been here in a long time. Right. I'm like, we got to change that. You got to get out there and see what those other people are doing with your students too. That's really important. So, anything else? Are we transitioning? I don't know. I'm not sure. Sorry. Does anyone need anything, break or anything like that?
Okay, so here's where we're at. We are going to take a few minutes to go table to table and share your capstones or your ideas for your capstones. And then after we're done that, your choice is to hit the road or to stay and work. And we will be here to assist you however we can. Don't forget there's a tally over here. Please do this before you leave. I'll leave some markers right here. And, oh, good, Jody's gonna write. Okay. Okay, so if you don't have an idea, it's okay, we're just gonna go table to table. So when we get to your table, if you have an idea for your capstone, just shout it out. All it has to be is the idea.
Can I just put out there that Inclusive Practices Guidebook, I think I talk about it all the time, not as much as MTSS, but I do talk about it a lot. In the back, there's tons of surveys, questionnaires, tools that if you want to go get answers to questions, they're already built. You don't have to rebuild the surveys and stuff, so use that.
And it's all online, the Inclusive Practice Guidebook, it's all online. I'll actually send you the link this afternoon when I get home.
copies of it, hard copies, manual copies when we were together in the summer.
That's
Yep.
right. Yeah.
That's right, you have the copies.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's shake things up. Let's start here. Anybody here have an idea?
I already started since I'll be having a baby soon. So I am doing non-participation justification and going over the language because we were cited for not using consistent and clear language of why the student was pulled out of the general ed setting.
That's their new thing. Lots of districts are getting cited on that.
And linking it to the N1 number 3.
Yes.
N1 number 3. Great. Okay, somebody else.
Indicator 13, transition planning.
Indicator 13, transition planning. Thank you, Kelly. Anybody else over here?
I am thinking of doing mine on program oversight for out-of-district and in-district programs.
Program oversight. So if you see something up here, take a look at who's saying it, because if you're doing the same thing, maybe you can do it together. Right? Okay. Yeah.
Something to do with the building-to-building transition process.
Oh, that's a biggie. Okay. Right here. Let's go to that back one.
So it's either transition planning, using the form to drive and document in the IEP who's going to be doing what,
Yep.
or measurable goals.
Ooh. That's lofty.
It's probably
It's like, whoa. Okay, anybody else at this table know? We're here. Yeah.
Inclusive practices, just moving to inclusion.
Okay.
You're not doing a very good job of it.
It is a very large, lofty process, right? So
I think I'm going to narrow it to.
yes, there is a course on the DESI sites, 15 PDPs. It's actually very good. There's one for teachers and one for administrators. Many school districts that are launching inclusive practice task force, stakeholder meetings, etc., that is part of their work, is having people participate in those classes. Yep. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
I'm thinking of doing some sort of maybe checklist to go on, help support teachers on writing IEPs and improving IEP writing, basically. So it's very cohesive throughout the whole IEP.
Awesome. So did you hear that? IEP writing checklist. Creating an IEP writing checklist so it helps teachers write more comprehensive, cohesive IEPs. Anybody else over here? Okay, we'll go right in the back.
So I started with the concept of annual goal writing for the IEPs based on the CPR.
Yeah.
But after talking to the special ed teachers pre-K to 12, I need to start helping them with doing a better job of actually describing and the characters of the student. So I may be backing off and actually using a rubric for them about how to put the information in the student concern summary piece for the kids. And then eventually get to the goals.
So what she found was that she started with one target, which was, key evaluation summary, student concerns, right? Is that what you
That's where I ended up.
That's where it ended up.
Because I started off with the goals, and then I realized I needed to backfill quite a bit because I needed to work on training, on interpreting test results, being able to really describe a picture that shows like here are all the strengths, but this is the area we need to work on. And from that, then you can get ready to write the goal, but they aren't there yet, so I'm working on that piece first.
And you might find that happening. So when you're thinking about inclusive practice, you may decide to become very narrow, right? It might mean, well, I think maybe we're interested in starting an inclusive practice stakeholder meeting, right? That might be the capstone, just getting that rolling. That's something I can help you with. That's some of the work that I do in districts, is inclusion task force strategic planning. So if that is your thing, let me know. Okay, what else over on this back table? Anybody?
So I take care of 9th grade at the high school level, so mine would be more on failing students and probably like re-engagement efforts, implementing some to save those at risk.
Okay. So going off of the last video we saw, how do we re-engage at-risk kids? Nice. Anybody else over here?
Clear and structured process for issuing the IEPs and then managing why they're not coming back and where they are and what's the problem when they're
So
not
a
coming
tracking
back.
system. A tracking system for IEPs. Developing a tracking system.
I'm gonna try and get our DCAP more publicized. And I'm gonna try to make it so that our teachers have permission to accommodate non-special ed.
Use the
DCAP?
Here's the DCAP and here's how to use it. Anybody else at this long table? Okay, how about here?
I'm doing something with parent preparedness and education before IEP meetings and during the whole process.
Do you hear that? Parent preparedness for IEP meetings. Anybody else at this table? Yeah, you know?
Someday, I hope we change labels and talk about ability versus disability. I'd like to talk to my school psychologist a little bit at how we present findings at a meeting. If there's a reading disability, but flip it the other way at what kids are gifted at and what they're good at and how we're going to adjust our teaching. So I'd like to change the language of the meeting.
She's working on changing the language of the meeting to strength-based programming, as opposed to a deficit-based model.
Right. I'm working on creating a two-sided reference document for support for students, where on one side it has what's available from general ed, and then on the other side, what's available from special ed. I've been to a lot of IEP meetings, I've chaired them, been teachers at IEP meetings where either the student isn't found eligible or services are being pulled away because the student is making gains. But there is a need for support, but it's just not going to come from the special ed side. And then there's tension at the table because nobody knows what to say or what we can offer, or just go to guidance and then the meeting ends. And I feel like we didn't do enough. And just because it's not special ed, we should be able to offer information about the gen ed supports. And then the flip side, when there's no special ed at all, that doesn't mean we don't offer support. But special ed staff seem like they're not as well versed about gen ed stuff.
Yeah, it goes both ways,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah, so I want to attack that by making this sheet available, starting with ETCs and then see where it goes.
Non-special ed supports, is that the topic?
Yeah, well, it supports a reference document for gen ed and special ed support.
I mean, we all like to get our hands on that. Anybody else at this table ready to roll? Okay, you're thinking, right? You have to slow it down, conversation. What about back here?
Can I just ask one follow-up? Are you planning on using like the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, different tiers as well within that or not?
No, the way, now, this is just how it is in my head right now. It's more like the areas, counseling, social skills, and tutoring right now. And I would have it where they mirror each other. So if we know a student needs tutoring, let's say, and then we go through the eligibility process, and for whatever reason, they're not eligible, but we know they need tutoring, we can just flip it and say, we can get it through, through guidance or what have you. And we don't have this feeling of leaving them empty-handed or hoping everything goes okay when you go to guidance. Maybe you'll get a 504, maybe you won't. That's how I have felt. And so, and it seems like there's a
positive response so far.
It makes parents crazy.
It makes
Absolutely nuts.
Yeah,
It does, that hanging piece.
and then they don't understand why we can't do anything, it's like, because it's on the other side.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Like the other side, yeah.
Right,
So.
right. Instead of being, seeing what you're doing is leveraging what Thomas Hare is saying about school districts becoming one system of support.
Right.
Right? We are one system of support, and that's what you're doing. Okay, so you're leveraging that. That goes with inclusive practice, right? So you two might want to talk. Oh, hello. All right, how about over here? Anybody know?
That gets me excited. And to add one more thing, I think the parents see that ineligibility is like dead end.
Right.
So who's going to be the transition person from the team to carry it through to the next year? You know, like
This document would just be, it would be a threat. The people would have to be involved, but at least we would have that as a threat.
And I have a real life person's name, but we should talk.
Some of those parents, they come in hot to special ed. They're like, hey, you never helped me. You know, and sometimes that's like what we have to deal with. Because they suffer through this.
Right, and the process of eligibility can be very, very long. And it's 90 days and then they feel like, you just duped me.
Yep.
And it can damage the relationship from then on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just ask a question, because I know I've heard some high school people are here, so I just want to ask. We have a big high school of at least 3,500 kids. So we don't have a 504 department. Do all of you have your own 504 department?
Our student services.
Part of our student services.
Our counselors. That says disorganized, there's a lot of other things.
We do it.
Yeah.
And it
It's
is
especially
bad. Yes, it's bad district.
70.
I will say bad, because it's a regular ed thing, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
I was wondering if I should have bitten that off and said, try to create a 504 department.
You gotta push back.
I think you.
The high school.
You got a couple weeks.
You can change your mind, right?
Oh, wow. 504s are a big topic.
Yeah, there you go. I was in Lowell this year.
I had an idea, now I have another idea, and another one, but I think I still should stick with my original because it keeps me awake at night. How to maximize team consultation and how also to include our paraprofessionals more.
Yep.
I got this,
yeah.
this is not all original,
Training,
because I got this
training.
in the mail. Maximizing the effectiveness of paraprofessionals who work with students with special needs.
Wow, when is that?
This is like $1,000. To teach you how to do that, like, so to make, we're not doing a good job of team consultation, we've been called on that. We were asked to write it in our IEP, in the A grid.
It's on the paper.
It's on the paper, even if it's 1 times 10, it might be in the hallway, and it's like 1 times 1.
Yep.
So it keeps me awake at night, because I don't do a good job of it, so I think I should do it.
So Patty, there's a book by Paula Clute, which is 30 Days to the Co-Taught Classroom. And the first couple of chapters are all about how to increase and maximize collaboration time. The work is done for you in the first few chapters of that book.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you write goals on consults?
They're linked into other goals.
Yeah.
That's how I have.
Okay, because in our district, they said if you're writing a consultation goal, if you're writing a consultation, they have to write a goal no matter who it is. It has to be
About the goals that are in the IEP.
like an ELA.
So in our CPR, we were called on, we were cited on not having it in the A grid, but all we were asked to do is say, like, we had 4 goals, team consultation, 1 through 4.
All right.
It's not perfect, but that's what we were asked.
Anybody else over at this table? You have an idea what you're going to do?
Well, I was going to do more about parent involvement and engagement and collaboration, but then like go inclusive practices or a lot of it really is, or the evaluation process and making sure that RTI, all that data is collected. So if you're going to come to SLD because of research methods, it's how do you do that?
Yep. Oh, you have a lot of ideas.
I don't know.
Anybody else here have an idea? Oh, okay, come on.
Possibly necessity to paraprofessional support. The need for paraprofessional support. There's a lot of stuff out there. The Acoustic Practice Guidebook has a lot of information on that also. Yep.
What's that called?
Practice Guidebook.
Oh, that's
yeah. Yep, you got it. Yeah.
That thing's excellent.
Isn't it great? It's great. What you
So
got?
our biggest problems are, passports are declining for our special education population.
Yeah.
And offices is that there's probably some relationship to more goal writing that's going on with our IEPs, and those aren't being accountable for what's going on. So I guess I'm thinking about investigating, developing perhaps a rubric or something that would help the special education teachers to speak more clearly about the baseline for students and develop goals that really have some purpose and that they're being held accountable to, so that when they write a progress report, it isn't the student is a nice boy.
So measure outcomes.
database.
And accommodations too, sometimes they're way up. That's why the kid can't pass the test, not ever giving the accommodations, you know what I mean?
So that the meat is there and it's not all this like fluff, right? It's like, it's all gravy and no meat, right? So how, well, sorry to the vegetarians. Okay, we're over here, we have 3 more tables. Look at all the ideas that are coming up. Now other people's heads are spinning.
Are you going to send those out?
I am going to type these up and send them to all of you, all right? So that you will know. And then you can email the group back and say, hey, who's doing checklists for such and such, right? And then you can start talking to each other. So, but it'll take me a little while to get this typed up unless I stay. Okay, over here. Anybody have a great big fat idea?
I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm going off of what I'm already doing for my evaluation.
Nice.
So I'm doing transition, but I'm doing for myself and for the parent and student, better educating the parent and student about the transition process starting at age 14, trying to gather enough brochures and materials to educate them along their way to post-secondary. I feel like when they're about to graduate, I'm like, they know nothing, you know? So I'm trying to get the DESE brochures so I can periodically hand out the right information at the right time.
And networking with Mass Rehab
Right,
and all those
exactly,
agencies we saw this summer, like calling them up and saying, hey, what do you got for informational brochures?
So yeah, I'm beginning a file cabinet of all those brochures, but I feel like when I'm just talking, it's not enough. I need to give them tangible.
I agree. That's a good one. Anybody else here?
A spin-off of that idea, and I heard a couple from the parent perspective, but I'd like to take the student perspective, make the process more meaningful and almost have them driving the whole process out. It's about them, so try to create, whether it be a document, a conversation with them to get their input, to be the driving.
Students.
Students.
IEP process, okay. What grade level are you at?
High school.
We have a whole
At
bunch of
vocational
assessments that we use to help drive the conversation.
So you guys should talk to each other, right? There's so much, there's such a wealth of experience in this room that learning from each other is part of this. Anybody else at this table?
Thinking about how kids qualify for extended school year services and jobs.
Extended school year.
Wait a minute, that's called babysitting in the summer.
Extended school year. Yeah, I have some stuff that I can send you. Yeah. And I like the book you recommended this summer. Was it you that recommended Light in the Darkness? Who recommended that book this summer? Maybe you're not here about the
Call the
mills
Darkness
and
Light.
Lowell.
Call the Darkness Light.
That's it.
By Nancy Zarella?
Yeah, did you recommend
That
it?
is my favorite book in the whole world.
I ordered it through Thrift Books for a couple bucks and it's good. It does like that.
Yeah, it's really, that's why I couldn't get my book group to agree to read it for like a year and a half.
It's really good though.
It's called Call the Darkness Light. It's by Nancy Zarella. It's not in print, you have to get it used, but you get it $4. Was it like $4?
Yeah, on Thrift Books it's like $4.
Yeah. And it's just a historical novel of the Lowell Mills, and they actually used a Lowell Mills girl as their catalyst to go through what was going on in history during that time. So a lot of our towns are mentioned.
It's very
in it.
cool.
Yeah.
Anybody else at this table? Okay, let's go to this table over here. Anybody over here have an idea?
My sped directors asked me to look at proportionate share.
Proportionate share. All right, there's a new advisory out on that?
That's why.
Okay. So make sure you know that it's there. Okay. So for those of you who work with proportionate share, there is a new advisory out. If you haven't looked at it, that's something we should be looking at.
Yeah, what is it?
What is proportionate share? What is proportionate share?
Yeah, it's the state, the SPED 240 grant, which is the big state grant, gets money from the federal government. And the federal government has told the state that we need to be sharing with private schools in the district, and the state has been screwing it up. So it's new guidelines to the cities and towns about how to share the federal money with the private schools in the districts.
Yeah, there's a portion of that 240 money that has to go to private school or to kids who are homeschooled. Right?
Yeah.
Or anybody else over here?
I'm going to revamp my ILC.
ILC.
Intensive Learning Center.
Intensive Learning Center. She's going to revamp the Intensive Learning Center. Ooh, that's a good one.
Is that therapeutics? Are we talking
It's our for intellectual and other developmental disabilities. Want to restructure that.
So she's looking at program, right? So her focus is going to be programmatic as opposed to procedure, right? We have some procedures, we have some programs. Yeah? Yes.
Student did thumbs up.
Are you guys all set over here? Okay, great.
So student-led IEPs.
So you two should be talking, right? Student-led IEPs.
Just an idea.
So we have student-led conferences, right? Now, lots of student-led conferences. Now, she's talking student-led IEPs. Anybody else over here?
Something around what teachers should bring to a meeting.
Oh, dear.
Because they come with nothing and they say they're doing good. So something to hold them accountable for giving me some sort of data.
Helping gen ed teachers come with the data they need to inform an
Should
IEP
include
process.
special ed teachers on that.
Well,
too.
both, yeah.
Any teachers. Okay, any
Sometimes
teachers.
come with their
And the attitude they need.
Right, yeah.
Come with the right attitude.
Come with a strength-based attitude, right, about a child's soul. Right, we heard that a couple of times today.
Yeah.
About a child's soul, and where is that in this process? Anybody else at that back table ready to go?
We're talking about ideas.
Yeah. But we also have, and this kind of ties into the student-led IEPs, but like a social emotional learning initiative. We have lots of different things from mindset to yoga. I work with the preschool, integrated preschool population. So mindset, yoga, and social thinking, but just how to, we feel like we have consistent language that we use within the context of each one of those, but like in a problem-solving situation, you know, either in a more therapeutic way or even, you know, when those of us who have to intervene with kids who are having behaviors, how do we make sure our language is consistent across the board in terms of, you know, just even looking at it through an RTI lens, but bridging all of those things. But it almost feels like it fits in with what you were talking about with the student-led IEPs and how, like the reaction you got in terms of because we've started incorporating that mindfulness piece into like what teachers are bringing to the meeting. So they're having to bring things obviously that the kids can do, but also evidence of what they can't do yet, what they're working on that sort of helps frame the goals. But it just that language just makes it more positive. Sorry, that was a side note, not my
No, I
comment.
like it. So your three silos were social thinking,
Yoga, mindfulness.
And mindfulness, and where does sensory fit in there? Right? With the little ones, we're hearing of lots of stuff around sensory, and where does that fit in terms of mindfulness?
I know in our district that there are two people working without looking at zones of regulation.
Yeah.
And then, you know, in zones of regulation, definitely in elementary, but also middle, and then they're trying to like use newer language which should kind of be adapted for the high school level. But it might be something that you could like add to where students are using the same language as they go up from elementary to middle school, and we were able to describe like how big the problem is, and all these other things.
Yeah, I was in a classroom yesterday in Lowell, actually, and I know, how about that? In Lowell, I got lost in Lawrence too, delivering books wherever the Lawrence friends are, thank you. I got stuck underneath the railroad bridge, so, anyway, some homeless guy came out, help me, out from under the bridge, I was stuck. And it was quite a story. But anyway, the teacher had the zones of regulation on the board and these big, beautiful posters she made using the characters from Inside Out. Right? So we had the blue and the green and the yellow and the red, right? And she had all these, they were really adorable. And then she had little flip charts the kids brought back with them to their classrooms that their teachers could use. It was really, so there's an idea too around bringing in zones of regulation to kids in meaningful ways. Is there anything anybody else wants to add? Somebody should have told me my collar was off all day. All right, so this is the time of the day where we're going to stay and help people who want to think this through, or if you want to work in groups, or you want to stay and use this time to work on your capstone, right? You've already set aside the day. Maybe you want to stay and work on your, like for me, when I stay in one place, I get the job done. Right? I'll leave and go home with the right intention, and the next thing I know, I'm in Target. Right? So, we want to be thinking about how to best use our time. So, those of you who want to stay, great. Those of you who feel like you want to get on the road, I just want to thank everybody for braving the weather and illness and everything else we had to push through in your schedules to get here today. It means a lot to us as your team that's supporting you. It also is because you came, you don't have to try and reschedule, which this time of year would have been a total nightmare. Please make sure that you have signed in that you are here so that we're not trying to chase you down for the additional assignment for missing today.
And you know it's going to happen.
And it will happen. That's right. So with that, we are going to say thank you for coming. And we look forward